TGIF. Hope you all have had a wonderful week. I know you are ready for the weekend to begin. So, welcome to the Just Ask Char advice channel. We will be getting started very soon. So get comfortable, get ready, and relax. We sincerely thank you all for your support. This channel is sponsored by you, the subscribers. When you want to hear another perspective for yourself or a friend, then just send an email for advice to justaskchar@gmail.com. All right, we are ready to get this show started. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend. There will always be a perspective or some advice that someone can benefit from and use. Now, here's your host of the show, Char Willie.
All right, here I am, good people. Greetings to you. How you doing? I am so sorry for being late. You know that is not my style, but I can actually say that I was kidnapped on Juneteenth. Write it down in your books. It may happen again, may not, but hey, I didn't have a chance. I had to walk right in the door and jump on a computer. So please forgive me, because if I had an opportunity to tell you and change the time, I would have done so, because I respect you enough to not just have you hanging. I don't like people doing it to me, and I definitely wouldn't do it to you. I was just in that position. I was not able to change anything. So, after all that, greetings. I hope you all are well. Happy Juneteenth to you. I am doing well. I'm a little tired. Wish I was able to have a little shower or something before I got started, but oh well. What can you do? But I'm here for you peoples. Tonight, I don't know how it's going to go as far as people sharing, but I'm hoping. I am just hoping that people will share because as especially people of color, we face challenges when it comes down to aging parents. A lot of us don't have money to stay home and care for them. So I'm hoping that we do get you guys to come on and share, um, your stories. It'll be good. Other than that, I will say that everybody is jumping on board as far as with our, I guess, black cause. Everyone all of a sudden is aware that uh, our black men are getting gunned down for no reason, little reason, and I'm glad that things are going the way it's going. When I got even Discord, I got a message today from Discord. I don't even think it'll let me allow me to actually even click it off. It say, "Hey, we want to let you know that we know about racism and we stand with you." So I do see that everybody is jumping on board. People can't ignore it anymore. They try to, but nope, it doesn't exist. As far as this imagination, and we're hallucinating. No, this is what's happening to us people. Um, and then everyone in the chat room, greetings, welcome. Let's see, I'll name some names. Miss Classic Ruby and DJ Snoopy, and DJ Music, Don Teasy. Hope you take it easy. Joe W. Thank you. And who else we got in here? We got Shadra. Hey, Shadra. And I'm still scrolling. Just DeAndre and Michael Carter. Thanks for coming through. I appreciate each and every one of you. And without further ado, we will add the very classic Ruby, everyone. Yes. Let me give her her intro. I got to get that together.
Oh, I thank you very much, everybody. I'm so happy to be with you today on this lovely Juneteenth celebration, right? I mean, I know it's not technically why we're together, but it's always nice to get together on days like today, right? Even if we're not going to talk about it, we talk about it because it's us, you know? We got to celebrate. Got to take that time and say, you know what, happy Juneteenth. You know what I mean? It's kind of, I don't know. I'm a little conflicted about this one. I am because on one side, it's like, okay, it's a celebration of, emancipation of our people. It's also the celebration of how they managed to not tell an entire state of people that they were free for like 2 years. So, that's kind of tragic as
Yeah.
well. But um, I
Yeah.
guess if anything, we can look at this as one of those stories like, sometimes stuff comes late, but it's good, it's still coming. So just we don't all wake up at the same time, but eventually we all get to wake up, right? So that's just like with the police stuff. And hey, listen, everyone was saying, oh, these cops don't really do this and blah blah blah. And look, everyone's starting to wake up, right? They didn't wake up on time, but they're waking up now. So it's one of those kinds of tales.
I definitely agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. And I must say, I am now looking forward to the article reactions. Um, I'm getting in the swing of things. I'm ready for it. I'm excited about it. I'm bookmarking stuff. I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
So
Me too, girl. I got stuff bookmarked. I actually have a separate now like tab in my bookmarks that's for the articles. specifically, right? So I got like my June article bookmark section now, so I can find the bookmarks because that was always a trouble for me. So yeah, I'm ready too. Don't worry, we got this.
Yes. And hey, Zero, I apologize. I don't think I said your name, but yes, greetings to you. Welcome and always thank you. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started here. Um, Let me share my screen.
Mhm.
Let's see. Make sure I get the right one. It is this one. All right. Share audio. All right. And here we go. I have a letter here from a young lady, and let's get right on to it. Dear Shar, I have a time sensitive matter that I need your advice on. My father will be discharged from the hospital because his Medicare days are expiring, and the social worker said he will go on Medicaid and be transferred to a rehab facility. It is actually a rehab nursing home, and depending on his ability to function on his own or not, he would be qualified to reside there permanently if there is a bed available, which I am told is no guarantee. My family can no longer care for him as they have before, and I am the most responsible one out of all my siblings, so everything weighs on me. What do I do? None of us can afford to have 24-hour care for him in his home. That's another thing. The house has to be sold or the house would be used as his income. What should I do? All right, there you go. These are my earlier days, so my audio is always lower, but hopefully everyone was able to hear.
Mhm. I was able
Oh,
to hear definitely.
okay, good deal. Yeah, this person had a time sensitive matter, and they normally are sensitive when it comes down to it because a lot of people, we don't prepare for that day. We're getting older, and that day comes either when we're getting older or sometimes it can be by surprise. And if you don't have things in place, you know, um, it'll be a scramble. I've seen it happen too many times. People don't know what to do, and it can be very frustrating.
Mhm.
Um, in this situation with this person, the parent had a home. And if you put a person in a facility that has a home, they can't have it. They have to sell that and um, give up the proceeds. When you go into a facility, you cannot have and own anything. They take everything from you. They'll take your Social Security, pension, whatever you got, they're going to take it.
Mhm.
So, as far as with the home, haven't heard any updates. I don't know what happened as far as what the person decided, but I have seen some things, and people have tried to find ways of getting out of it. Switching over the name to another member. Sometimes it has been done, but a lot of cases and some other things. But when you're in this situation, it can be really scary because you already got the worry of your loved one and what they're dealing with. And then sometimes there's medical decisions you have to make. And depends on who's left in the family or who's in charge. One decision may not be favorable among the other.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I just gotta say, from a cultural perspective, This is one that I don't get. I don't get the Western world and their nursing homes. I don't understand it. Um, to
Uh-huh.
me, it's unthinkable. When someone gets old, one of two things happens. When your parents or an old uncle or whoever gets old, one of two things happens. Either they stay in their house and the family bands together to take care of them in their house, or they're moved into someone's house, whoever has the extra room or an extra space in their house for them and whatever, and they're taken care of at home. That's It's just what it is. If you don't have the resources, you don't have the space, you don't have the energy, everyone makes a way. Because when you were a baby, when you were a kid, there wasn't always resources and time and whatever, everyone made a way. It's just the cycle of life. So I think when you are kind of born and raised culturally where it's not, there's no options, like this is just what you do now. um,
Uh-huh.
you don't look at it as being something, oh, well, I'm not sure if it's possible. I'm not sure if I can take the burden or blah, blah, blah. You just do what you got to do. Um, Whereas when you're in the Western world, it's like, well, yeah, that's what they have nursing homes for. And, oh, I don't think I'm quite equipped. And, well, the money. And, you start thinking about all these things that are just not considerations. Like, for example, my grandmother right now, she's been being taken care of at home, and has needed round the clock care for most of the last 4 years, and honestly, for a couple of years, really before that, she needed a lot of help, and she's at home in her own home, and I mean, luckily, she lives in a building where two of her kids, one who is an evil incarnate bitch, we talk about her sometimes, um, right? The other one being my parent. And she's lucky she lives in an apartment building where they actually live in that building too, so it's a little easier for them to have access. But my sister, my cousin, well, a bunch of the cousins, my uncle, everyone has pitched in. So basically, between everyone has to work their full-time jobs, people have their own responsibilities they've got to take care of, and so there's like literally like a schedule. So you can get very limited kind of, everyone thinks like everything in Canada is free, not everything. And even things that are free are very hard to access. So we fight through the system best we can, get whatever little minimal stuff they're willing to throw out, and then we schedule everyone else around that minimal help that we can get, or the lack thereof, and whatever, and everyone just takes care of her. That's what you do. It's not really like a discussion. There's never been a, oh, well, let's put her in a home discussion. So just from that standpoint, um, I can't relate. I can't relate to the concern, I guess. Is it harder on everyone? Sure. Is it stressful on everyone? Sure. But it's what you do. It's the sacrifice I saw my grandmother. My grandmother made for all her kids, and then she made for a bunch of her grandkids over and over again. So, we're supposed to, now that we're older and we have our own lives, and she's not able to take care of herself, we're supposed to go, yeah, not really my problem though. I don't know. I can't relate to that.
Okay, well, I sure appreciate that because it's good to hear from all avenues. Now, there was a Now, I did mention that sometimes it depends on the size of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and let me give you an example. I'll just say a couple of things that I know. I did invite someone that has a story. Hopefully, she'll be able to come and give one. But I had a situation where, me personally, for my mom, um, I had, so many different people, saying things. And it was interesting, I must say. I didn't get angry at anyone or anything. I listened to everyone. Just like you, see me now. I'll listen to anyone. You can say what you want, but I have the final say. So, but what ended up happening after my mom's second stroke, I said, that's it. I had tried to get some um, state funded help in a home for a few hours, 5 days a week, because that's all they're going to give you. I've tried everything I could do personally. I changed what I was doing working. I went from full time, and then I went to part time. And I've even taken some time off because they had introduced family medical leave. You get 12 weeks and you can take time as needed. So I was working in all those, everything that I had access to, I used it. Now, the equation with this is it was just me. There was no one. You looked around, all you saw was me, the daughter. That was it. Father already passed away. Um, not, um, the family that is left is where they are in other states, as well as you just don't see them that often because they got their own life, and that's just it. So when you look around, it goes back to just me. That's it. So I've done all I was able to do. So I had a choice, and I had made my decision up that that was it. It's nothing I could do. It's nothing more I can do. I don't have the finances. Um, what am I going to do? So I made my decision. That was fine. Now I had a lot of people tell me different things, and it was just the most interesting thing. I had stories of, oh well, I put my mother, and this woman, she was in her 70s when she was telling me this. She told me, yeah, I put my mother near me, and I went to go see her every day, and I spent the night sometimes on the weekends with her, and I used to take her food, and I'm like, okay, all right. So I'm waiting to see how she's, able to live while she's doing all of this. And ta-da, she has a husband. She
Mhm.
had a sister. So I'm like, uh-huh. So in other words, she had some help. So again, like I said, I listened to her story and I found it very interesting and glad. And after she finished telling me her story, I told her I was so glad that she was able to do that because not a lot of people are. And
Mhm.
that's understandable. I ran across someone else. Let me see. I'm trying to think. Did I take a cab? Whoever this person was. It was a stranger. I was on a bus. I don't remember. All I remember is a stranger, and this guy had an accent. And some kind of way, I don't know how I end up having a conversation with him, but he says, well, why did why did you do that? We would never do that. So it's we, I guess, different cultures. So
Mhm.
I said, okay. Well, I said, well, if you have an answer, let me know what the answer is. I said, it's just me and it's just her, and I make money. She has a social security check because of her age. Um, Once that's out of the house and she's out of the house, that leaves me. I have to foot all the bills of the house. How I'm going to do that if I'm just at home with her and I'm not able to pay any bills? I said, so you let me know how I can work that out. If you can give me an answer, I'll consider it. I don't care what someone, I am a person, I'll listen. If you say some, hey, Shar, I tell you what, if you balance on one foot and hop two times, turn around swiftly, and this will work for you. And I'll listen to it and I'll think about it. And if it's something I think I can try and it'll work for me, I'll do it.
Mhm.
So I'm a reasonable person. I will listen to what you have to say. But after I mentioned that to the guy that if at home with her 24 hours a day, how are we gonna have a roof over our head? How long that's gonna last?
Right.
And that was pretty much the end of that conversation.
Mhm.
Um, who else did I have a conversation with? Uh, oh, and then I can't think of right this second, but as far as when it comes down to family, that's another thing. As far as who do you have to support you? You know, do you have siblings? Do you have aunts, uncles, and other relatives that can help? Um, that's another thing. Some people will not help. I have a friend that had several sisters and brothers. I think she said it was 7 of them. No, it was a total of 7, so it was 6. She had 6 of them, all different ages. I think in their 20s all the way up to their 40s, because at that time we were in our 20s, and no one would help out. No one
Mm.
would do nothing. When her mom passed, that no one would do nothing. No one would help. Everything was on her, and she was married with a little child
Mm.
at the time. Everything was on her. So even having family sometimes doesn't mean that you got a solution with that.
Oh yeah, we
And
just talked about that last week with my mother and her family, right? So, yeah.
exactly, so that's really bad. I'm like, wow. So there's, like I said, there's just so many different variables that it will not work out. Now, as far
Well,
as the horror stories, I hear about the horror stories. But you can only do what you're able to do, because if you don't have the money, the finances to keep that person and have a household for yourself, is nothing you can do. Oh, go ahead.
can I ask a question? I just wanted to ask a quick question, because this does actually affect my answer, though, right? Because this is an important clarification. So you said with your mother, for example, she had had 2 strokes, um, right? So now, did she require both, complete physical and medical care and support? Like she can't get up, and she's entirely bedridden, and so she can't go to the bathroom, she can't shower herself, she can't feed herself, she needs round the clock medical care as well. Like, was it a situation like that?
Yes, with that second stroke, that was correct. And even
Right. So,
after she got, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, no, sorry. No, no, please continue. I would say that's totally different, right? And to be clear, I'm hypercritical of of a completely different set of circumstances. If someone needs round the clock physical and medical care and support, like, to the point where they are literally not uh, able to anything, that's a very different situation, especially if you are alone, or you have 1 or 2 siblings maybe, or something, and you guys have to work, and maybe you have kids or whatever, and someone needs literally round the clock medical care, because at that point you actually have to get a nurse in to help, and a physiotherapist, and a bunch of stuff that costs money. You know what I mean? Not just your time, that costs money too, because you've got to work and whatever. So I mean, that is different. I will say, I do think, in all fairness, that that's a very different scenario, because you have to think about what's best for your parent, and is it better for your parent to miss out on all of the actual health care and physical care that they require, um, because you don't want to put them in a home, because you wouldn't feel right about putting them somewhere that's state run, but that will be able to actually attend to all of their needs. So I do think that's different.
Yeah. So that was my circumstance, but there are other people that have other circumstances that they just don't do, or they don't care enough, or they selfish, because that's another thing. A lot of us are selfish nowadays. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about me, myself, and I. Oh, you want some time? I got to help you over there. I got to do that. Oh, well, I ain't got time for that. I got to go out. I got to do this and that. Some people are like that, and it doesn't matter whether it's a parent or not. They don't even care.
Hmm. And that, like, I'm not trying to be mean. I don't know this woman. I don't know her circumstances, but the tone that I got from the letter a little bit was like that. Like, listen, I did my time. You know what I mean? I put in that work and that effort, and I'm tired now. And my husband's getting fussy about it. And I want to be able to go out for girls' nights on Fridays still. And I mean, and fine, I'm making it really flippant, but that was the tone that I got from it. Um, and that, to me, I take issue with, and I think that's where, like, the cultural thing in me speaks. Like, you know what I mean? how do you just say, well, I'm the most responsible one and I don't feel like being responsible anymore, so I don't think I should have to, because that's what it sounded like to me. I don't know. And that's where I more so had an issue. Like we had, it's not easy. Remember, I already talked about my mother. Now, in all fairness, and this is where culture makes everything different. So, um, when you have an entire culture of people who think a certain way, then even if your kids aren't able to take you in, you've got, extended family, you've got friends that are like family, you got a bunch of other people who, even if your kids ain't shit, someone will be like, fine, come stay in a room, or, something. So you will get a little bit of help along the way. Or like, for example, me, I wasn't willing to help evil incarnate woman. I wasn't willing to visit her. I wasn't willing to take that on. I wasn't. I told my mother that. I told my mother I don't think she should be doing it, because that woman didn't earn herself any goodwill from her kids or from anybody, honestly, other than maybe me and the whole entire family. And I wasn't willing to do it because of how she treated her mother or my mother. So, I wasn't willing to visit my grandmother, but I supported my mother. So I was willing to stand in the gap for her. So my mother, even though I thought she shouldn't be sacrificing all that time and energy, I was willing to sacrifice time and energy to fill in the gaps that my mom was missing, to be there for her mother. So like my grandmother was staying with a friend, for example, when she wasn't inside of the hospital or whatever. That's like her best friend in the world friend. But then that best friend in the world wouldn't take her to doctor's appointments, wouldn't do this, wouldn't do that, basically gave her room and board, right? But like she wouldn't do anything extra. So it was still on my mom to come and do extra stuff for her. And then my uncles wouldn't do anything at all, but occasionally would drop by and slip Beva $50 or something. So that way she'd keep buying food for my grandmother and cooking it. So it's like, a bunch of little worthless acts that all added up. It was still killing my mother. So then I was, standing in the gap for her, making it to appointments, or filling in when she was missing things, trying to get food together for her household when she was missing that. Um, so it's like, you create an extended network of support, even if you don't have great family necessarily. So if you don't have that built in, culturally, then it makes it extra hard as well, even if you really, really are trying to do the right thing and you are coming from the right angle, right? Your government's not helping you, your medical isn't helping you, and then you don't have like either the greater culture, the Western culture, or your individual culture that is set up to help, and to support and to be that network. Kind of like, if you were in a really small town, even though you didn't have family and this and that and whatever, the small town would have helped you help her. Do you know what I mean? So, because
Yeah.
it's like the small town culture, everyone helps each other, everyone gives a shit about each other. You'll just have a $10,000 check show up at your door because they did a fundraiser to help you. Like they do stuff like that. In the big city, no one does stuff like that. No one even knows your name. You might live next door to someone for 20 years and they don't recognize your face, right? So
Yeah.
it's very different, right? So I'm not trying to be critical. I'm not. Like, I don't want anyone to think that I just came into this, like, with my head up my ass, and like, I don't think that there's any differences at all. Um, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if anyone's ever volunteered at an old folks home. I have. Um, I've been in this I guess we call it volunteering type of thing called Standing in the Gap with my mom. Started when I was like 10, 11. And one of the places we used to go is to old folks' homes. Just to, and the saddest thing in the world is we're volunteering to go sit with them. Just sit with them, because nobody comes to visit them. Nobody. No one comes and sits with them.
Oh,
They
wow.
have they have living family. They have living sons and grandsons and nieces and nephews. Sometimes they'll tell you all about them. They get phone calls or letters sometimes, or pictures, and they can tell you about them. No one comes to see them. They might not have seen a human being who knows their name other than nursing staff for a year or two, you know? And or you see people, and this is something, if you've
Wow.
never been to a nursing home, you don't understand that they will take people who can't complain because they don't talk anymore, and they'll take their wheelchairs and park them in front of windows and just abandon them there for the day. So they're getting their sun, right? They're getting to see a scene. No one's paying attention to them. They're just abandoned. You just see it is the saddest, some of the saddest things you will ever see in your life that will literally rip your soul out of your heart, out of your chest, will be in old folks' homes like that. So I guess that's also where I come from. It's like just abandon them. And so if you didn't, it's one thing, yeah, medical care and this and that, but keep in mind, even if it's a hospital, like my grandmother, for a good long time, they thought she had Alzheimer's, because she just lost her mind almost overnight. And I kept telling everyone she must be sick. Like, this doesn't make sense. She was fine, like, on Christmas. It's January 1st. She shouldn't be out of her mind. Um, Coming to find out, her pancreas just wasn't working at all. No one thought to do blood work. They just kept writing her off as crazy for like 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so her insulin, her sugars were so all over the place. She was losing her mind in a way, but there's nothing wrong with her brain. And she was hospitalized for, well, she was a good almost a year. And what we realized is someone still had to be in the hospital with her almost constantly, because, like, if we weren't there, for example, when she went number two, which was like in her bed, they bring the thing and whatever, or sometimes she would go to the toilet. And then when she was finished on the toilet, remember, the woman can barely move. She's got arthritis everywhere and whatever. They wouldn't even wipe her. They would just pull up her pants and walk her back to the bed and go sit her down on the bed. So this woman just went to the bathroom and you don't even wipe her. That's your job as a nurse. It's literally your job. And they didn't do it. They don't take care of people. And so if they know that someone doesn't, even when they knew our family was there, and they'd still do it. But if they know really no one's looking out for you, they don't take care of you. Right. And so that's where I guess, you'll hear a lot of my passion come out, is because I've seen these things, and I see what happens to, families who abandon their family members to, these nursing homes and these hospitals and stuff. And they say, oh, well, they take care of them. That's their job. No, it's not. And people have a really low rate of living,
Yeah.
longer than 1 year inside of these nursing homes and stuff without familial support. It's just what it is. They've done study after study after study, very low. Under most people who have no one coming to see them, no family support inside these nursing homes and whatever extended care facilities, die within a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Not terminal people, mind you, not people who were going to die. They should be fine. But they went in there and got abandoned and die within a year. It's
Mm, that's
yeah.
really sad. And I know it's just so many different situations, that, there's lots of stories out there. I know several people, in different situations. One of my friends, her grandmother was ill, and they would try to take care of her and everything. They did what they could because some of them were home. Um, Her daughter, um, not my friend's daughter, but her grandmother, child, was too busy in the street to really care about her mom, and she wasn't even working. And when she did come around, she would, just want to eat and get some money. That's what that was all about.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, after the grandmother passed, they had to, of course, come up with some money and all that. And the daughter, she was who she was. She was just trying to get some money. Is there a will? Where is it? Is there a policy? Where is it? That's what she was interested in. So once they scraped up the money, buried the grandmother and all of that, the woman came around in the mailbox to get the check every month, because at that time in the 90s, those checks were still paper.
Mm-hmm.
Grandmother gone, or her mother is gone, and just month after month she would go and get those checks. And my friend just got to a point where, she seen her one time. I forgot, she was in the area or something, and she saw her go to the old residence and go in the mailbox, get the check, and head on up the street or wherever she was going. So she went on and called and just reported that the grandmother had passed away. It's a big difference now. Now everything is electronic. Um, they will let you know, let the state know that person passed if they had any income. So they put a stop to that because it's electronic now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so much going on with these folks.
Oh
Hey,
yeah. Oh yeah.
you would think she cared enough to help her mom, since it was her mom, that she would be around except for just money and food.
At the very least, you would think. And you know, a lot of times this is what we do, right? Like there are people who earn their karma and their fate in life. There are. Um and like I said, little Miss Evil incarnate over there. I actually said, I told my mother, I said, listen, she actually had a come to Jesus moment at any given point during this whole I'm dying of cancer, extended dying. So you've got lots of time to come to your senses about life. And my mom would always have to constantly kind of fib slash lie for her to try to, convince me. And I'm like, you're lying. I know she's sorry. She's not sorry. She's not sorry to any of you. I know she's not. And I know, oh, well, she said sorry in her way. What does that mean? Oh, so she didn't apologize, but you're trying to get a nice reunion, whatever. No, not doing it. But, little Miss Evil incarnate, I said, if she has a come to Jesus moment, she's suddenly sorry for real, actually cries and is, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm all for it. I'll start seeing her again because my uncle, I had an uncle, Roy. That's my grandmother's brother. I don't know what the hell their parents did to them, but their parents must have been some kind of hell because all of these siblings that had the same mother and father, man, they are all evil anyway. Um, but
Wow.
my uncle Roy was a wicked, wicked man, born and raised. It didn't leave Jamaica actually till he was dying. But he was apparently very, very violent to his wife, very violent to his kids, and just mean. He was just a mean ass person. He was mean to everyone in the neighborhood. Mean to kids. Kids. The one time I met him in Jamaica, I was terrified of that man. I didn't want to go anywhere near him ever again. Um, right? He was not a nice man. But then he got gout, and I guess that gout turned to gangrene, and started eating away at him, and basically he was dying. So his kids shipped him to New York. So I guess they could see if they could treat him. He couldn't. He's gonna die. Into his blood or whatever. And I remember seeing, you could literally see his entire leg bone, Shar. Um, well, you could see his leg bones in his calves. It was something to see.
Wow.
Yeah, it was something. And this man, I didn't recognize him. I'm like, who's this? It's like your Uncle Roy. No, it's not. I've never seen Uncle Roy with smile before in my life. This man was smiling, he was laughing, he was sweet, he was kind, he was considerate. I'm like, who the hell is this man? Right? Um, and two of his kids gave him a second chance. The third one said nope, because he's the eldest, so he got it the worst. And he was like, hell no, I don't care. Um, but he had a deathbed come to Jesus moment. He realized how wrong he was, how wrong he had treated his wife and his kids and his whole life. And how much he wished he could just do it all over again. Um, and so did these two people earn their karma as far as people abandoning them and whatever? I kind of feel like they did, right? And people earn their karma. And I get that. But on one side, I do feel like there are some children who honestly earn being left in the middle of a highway to play chicken by themselves, right? Like there are just some wicked little kids out there, some evil little teenagers out there, and some evil young adults out there who get love and support anyway. No, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the people earn bad karma. You do some wicked
Right.
shit in your life. So and this is where it comes down to me. I think sometimes we have to stop and realize, just like we don't shake the baby, sometimes we have to look at the elderly. You're twice a child, and we have to look at the elderly and recognize, when we get to that age, would we want to be abandoned to wallow in our own filth because of a mistake we made 40 years before that? Would we want to be abandoned after everything that we did try to give in our life, everything, everyone we did try to support in our life, would we want to be abandoned, forgotten, ignored, left to be abused in some, shoddy run facility? Now, in all fairness, the sad thing is that in the private homes, the private nursing care homes and stuff like that, you think you'd be getting better care, but they die more. They die more and they die quicker in those private ones. So go figure on that. But you know, like you have to think about these things. I think about these things all the time. I treat people the way I'd want to be treated. You know.
I agree. And we have someone that joined the panel. It is Chandra. Welcome,
Hey,
Chandra.
happy Juneteenth.
Hey, happy Juneteenth. Good evening, everyone.
Good
This is
evening.
this is a very tough topic, especially for Black families, because we have, on average, lower wealth than all other families. So this becomes a deal of economics first and foremost. Second of all, whether or not, because taking care of a human being requires money. Period. Whether you're doing it in a home or whether you're doing it within your own home, the average costs, including medication for the person who's approaching end of life, you can look at $2,000 a month between pills, between doctor's visits, between just insulin, stuff like that. It's actually a very heavy financial cost. Granted, these are people that supposedly we may love and care for, or some of them we don't really care for, but this is a difficult time or a difficult discussion to have because there are so many variables. However, there are several things that we have to keep in mind. A, what was this person doing during their life to maintain their health? If this is a person that was 350 pounds all their life and now they have diabetes and hypertension and they've done that out their entire life and not made any effort to try to take care of themselves, why should it fall on you now to take care of them, even if they're family?
Hmm, that's interesting. That's
Now, this
interesting.
if there was someone if this was someone who was actually trying to work on their diet, work on their weight, realize that they had a problem, and was actually trying to come up as a human being, right? And let's say they didn't lose all 300 extra pounds they had. Let's say they lost 150, right? If they had made some kind of effort, that's one thing, but it's a completely different ball game when they made no effort and they expect you now to become the person that takes on the weight of their choices.
So I guess now, are you talking about though? Because I guess the question is, right? I mean, it's one thing to be a 40-year-old, 700-pound person and you can't take care of yourself. But I mean, if you're like over the age of 75, whether you're like, 300 pounds or like, 150 pounds, there's a good chance that, your health is going to be, dwindling to failing. You're just as likely to be having all kinds of strokes and heart attacks and this and that and whatever. But like, if you're in that, elderly age category, that's 75 and older, you saying that the ones who are that they didn't necessarily live their lives healthily and didn't take care of themselves, to be all fitnessly, they don't deserve as much love and care and support as the ones who did?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's a factor to tie it because if you have someone right who took absolutely no care of themselves and then at 60 they decide, oh well, I'm getting old, I need you to take care of me, and they show up at your front door, are you obligated to take care of them? I believe the answer is no.
Does it matter though at all what they did in their 60 years of life to take care of you?
Yes, it does, but once again, it's a sliding scale. You don't know, you can't say for sure, like, okay, this person was probably didn't take the best care of their health, but for the first 25 years of your life, whenever you needed them, they were there. Then one could say that yes, there is some owed debt there to be able and or willing to take care of the other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once again, it's interpersonal relationships and how they actually play out, and also how that person was in their lifetime. Personally,
Right.
right? Like, looking at things from my own perspective, I'm a bit of an a-hole, right?
I didn't have
And
to
when
say it.
I, I have to say it because I'm the guy who's like, okay, if I get to be 60, you know what's on my bucket list, right? I have a bear fight on my bucket list. I'm gonna
You're
go
not
fight a
doing the
bear.
bear fight. I'm not letting you do the bear fight. Sorry, go ahead.
It
Oh boy.
means, but think about this, right? I work all my life to get to the point where I get a family. I build up a house. I work 30 years to pay off this mortgage on this house, right?
Mhm.
And now, once I have to either A, go to an old folks home, or B, be in the care of one of my children, all that money that I put into this house, which will be an inheritance for my children, now gets taken away by the government or the old folks home because they feel as though it's going to take them $3,000, $3 to $7,000 a month for them to take care of me, right? Because of the need for medical care the entire time. And that house that I put 30 years into paying for is now sold, and it pays for a whopping 4 years in this old folks home if I survive that long. Yeah, I'm going to take my chances with the bear. Thank you very much.
Jesus, you're the bear.
But once again, it also ties into how much are these people actually planning for. We all know that it's going to happen at some point. We're going to get old and decrepit. Like I like to think to myself, I'm gonna be that old man busting beers over the head with my cane, right? But I can't make that guarantee. I could fall over tomorrow, have a stroke. I could fall over tomorrow, crack my neck. But how much, if we're to be responsible adults, we should be planning for these things as best as possible.
That is true. I would say, then I look at other factors, right? So I think, we unfairly judge lower people from the lower SES class on the same merits and scale as we do people who are in the higher brackets, right? Because I mean, if you think about it, right, if you're born and raised in upper middle class and higher, right, then financial literacy and planning ahead and blah 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 and investing are all part of your vocabulary. These are all things that were modeled for you. These are all things that were done for you. You probably got a little bit of life insurance to help you pay for your parents' funerals and so on and so forth. Someone talked to you about wills and living wills and whatever, right? So, if you decided then to not do any of the above, and then you turn around at 60, 65 or whatever, you're like, oh, I'm so surprised and I have no way of taking care of myself and I don't know how this happened. To me, that's being very irresponsible. But if you were never modeled any of the above, never spoken about any of the above, and to be honest with you, you were born kind of so low, and then, yeah, made some foolish decisions when you were still a child, that basically kept you stuck in just survival mode to try to make sure you and your children don't die. And then you and your grandchildren and your children don't die, and so on and so forth. And then, boom, all of a sudden you're 65. Now your health is failing. And, well, why didn't you pay for life insurance? Well, because they couldn't pay for food and rent. So I do think that, and not to mention the fact that, yeah, they might have a generalized conception of insurance or this or that, but it's not the same. So I do think, it's funny because we spend a lot of time putting down, I think the lower classes really for not doing these things, when if anything, they're the ones that I don't judge on that scale, because I don't think that they have the same ability, the same, like, literally just financial ability to be able to afford some of these things. And sure, we can go, yeah, but in the long run, people aren't looking at the long run when they're in survival mode. They're looking at, I don't want to be homeless today. I don't want to starve to death next week. They're not looking at, well, when I'm 65, I want to make sure, and well, just in case I get cancer, I want to make sure I can pay my bills, because they can't afford to, right? So I do think you have to judge different people based on their own personal circumstances when it comes to that.
And I will agree with that. And it's just, it's a really tough talk to have,
Yes.
especially within the black community, because nobody, we're black people. We like to think we're invincible, even though we're not.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually more prone to have a lot of these diseases by way of, actually having lack of money, like you said, socioeconomic status. And
Mm-hmm.
even if somebody has a will or somebody has a thing. We almost always have that problem where somebody has some greed and they decide they want to leech this person off of their money. And I think that if you have a large enough family unit to support getting family and taking turns helping the family member out, that would be beneficial. But very often we don't have those family units, and it goes back to the problem we have with family feuds, if you want to call it that, from last
Yeah.
week. Where we have the problem where this person's not talking to this person, so how you gonna get grandma from uncle to auntie's house if uncle and auntie never gonna talk again?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
that's one thing with a lot of people now with their families, they definitely don't want to help in that sense. Oh, I got to wash this and clean that and cook this and do all this for this person. For some reason, they just don't want to. That's something they don't just volunteer for.
And
I've,
Mm.
I've
the
seen,
reason why is because a lot of people don't want to be stuck with that responsibility. But it's not really. It's them looking at the person as a set of responsibilities. Oh, I don't want to have to clean up after when she shits herself. I don't want to have to clean up after he shits himself, right?
uh-huh.
And
And
these are
to
it's
not be a
selfishness.
hypocrite. To not be a hypocrite though, I can't. Like I'm telling you, I love my grandma. I would sacrifice my life for her today. I'm telling you. Told that woman ever since I was about as soon as I could talk that she has to outlive me because I can't live on this planet without her. I can't do it. And it's been like that my whole. I felt so bad. I cried days and weeks about this when I was like even like a teenager because I'm the eldest cousin, right? And then the nearest one to me that was around is about 7, 8 years younger than me. And then my sister's 10 years younger than me. So you imagine me being 16, 17, and I can't help this woman with her stuff in the bath. I couldn't do it. I could wash her hair for her. I could dye her hair for her. I would sit there and I would give her all of my money to feed her. I would clean her house from top to bottom. I would do anything that woman needed me to do. But when it comes to physical personal care on people, I can't do it. I panic. I outright panic. I can't do it. Like and it makes me feel like such an incompetent person because I'm so empathic, but I can't do it.
See, part of the problem there is though now at that point, if you know that's a weakness of yours, you might be better off doing the things around the house and hiring out for somebody to come in and take care of those personal needs.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I would do. And it's funny because, because everything, I'll do anything but that. My sister is very good at that, right? She feels no ways about stuff like that. Help my grandmother wipe her and whatever. My grandmother doesn't even trust me because I mean now she doesn't like psychologically she doesn't remember anyone really. But my grandmother won't trust me to help her with the bathroom. Now that I've steeled myself, I'll do this. I can do this. She doesn't trust me. She won't let me go anywhere near her. When it comes to that, right? She trusts me when it comes to food. She trusts me with anything else, but not that, right? And so even somewhere in her memory bank she remembers my abject fear, like terror at this, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure what it is, right? And so I again, this is why I try not to be too judgmental because I'm like I try not to be a hypocrite here. I know I can't do that, um and if I can't do that for someone I would literally give my life for, I don't think I could do it for, say, my mother-in-law,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm already bad enough as it is. Like I panic when it comes to stuff like that. But I also come from a culture and from parents, maybe not my whole family. We talked about how messed up my family is, but my parents are both self-sacrificers. My parents both self-sacrificed for their mothers, whether they deserved it or not, right? And so I would do anything for my parents and for my parents-in-law and whatever. Like when that time comes, whoever needs to move into our house and we've got to work them into our family and taking care of them, that's what we're going to do. Hopefully my kids are old enough to wipe an ass by then. I'm being real because I'm not going to be able to do it. And I know I won't, but I will do whatever I can, right? Like I still, without, unless they need medical stuff, like, when people really need, like, they need to have oxygen and like the tube down their throat, a bunch of shit like that, where we literally can't afford that. Um, like I'm pretty sure that there's not a reason why I wouldn't take those people into my house. But then, I don't want to be a hypocrite. Would I take, evil incarnate auntie into my house, no, she could honestly die in an alley for all I care right now, right? So, there is there's a personal bias to all of this where I am relating to people who loved and cherished me and did anything for me, and even now in
Yeah.
my health and my issues now support me, and and the people who did that for my husband. So of course, I don't even care how he feels about it. We're taking her in. That's it. We're taking your mama in. No problem, right? So I guess that's what it is. It's like I do understand people who are like, listen, my mom didn't take care of me. She kicked me out when I was 14. Before that, she was a horrible mother. After that, all she ever tried to do is use me for money, for crack, or whatever. I get those people. I get those people saying, nope, I'm not taking that woman into my house. I'm not taking care of her. She's not my problem. I do actually do get that, because she wasn't a mother to you. No one sacrificed for you. She didn't take one thing away from her day and what she wanted to be there for you. So I get that too. I do.
Now, one
Yeah.
of the things I will say is that we have to be willing to take the step back and stop being completely selfish. So I know that, for example, tomorrow my mother has a stroke. My mother lives with my father on St. Croix.
Hmm.
My father would be able to help take care of her, but he would not be able to take care of her completely by himself. That's a fact. So
Hmm.
that would probably lead to them moving in with my sister. Why I say with my sister actually has some medical experience and whatnot, and I'm not medically inclined in certain ways. Like I don't give people injections regularly, stuff like that. My sister can find a vein, no problem. That being said, I also understand that I live in the middle of nowhere in North Dakota, where winter gets down to -30 sometimes. You don't want to bring old aging people into -30-degree weather where it's winter for 6 months out of the year, where they may end up catching walking pneumonia and dying within 3 months.
That's true.
So,
Right. Hmm.
go ahead.
And I was going to say, and some people are not able to relocate just because of the financial issue. If you have a job that you're in, depends on what type of job, how long you've been there. Maybe you were able to save something, but to relocate to another city, state, and think you can just get another job and help someone, sometimes that can be an issue. Because I've seen people do that. Um, Let me see, who was it? It was a person they had went to another state because that's where their mom was in the South. But they got there, didn't have any money, wasn't able to find anything. Plus, they're trying to help their mother. And the other couple of siblings and cousins, shoot, as soon as she came and moved, that's all they wanted. Like, oh, you gonna take care of her? Bye. Pew. And they were gone. The woman had no
Mm,
finances, no nothing. But she was there with the aging parent.
And
yeah.
that's actually a horrible situation to be in because, like I said from the beginning, no matter what kind of end of life care it takes, even if it's just feeding them, it requires money. And Social Security don't pay that much.
Mm-mm. Nope. Well,
Social
if I could,
Security will not even pay your average rent in your average American city.
no, definitely not. I could say, well, and see again, right? This does involve a little bit of literally defrauding the government. So anything I say going forward is
Allegedly.
alleged. Yeah, everything
Okay.
I say going forward is alleged. However, I do know people who have gotten around these issues. So what they've done is whatever their parents, Social Security. That's what it's not called that here, but whatever, Social Security money that they're getting in, there that's one thing. They also are on welfare, right? So they're claiming welfare through the government, individually saying that they're renting a room from their mother, right? They have power of attorney. They can sign whatever, so they're good. So now are they paying that rent? Actually, yeah, technically they are. It's not an actual rental situation, but if you say you live with your mother, not you're renting an individual space from her, they give you less money, right? You say that, oh yeah, I'm renting a room from in this basement, whatever, right? So okay, so now you got those two checks, and then what they did was they took care of their parent basically almost around the clock, except for when they would get like a babysitter or something. And they did stuff that you can do either online or very briefly. So they were doing process serving, anything that you could do really and not claim to the government, not let them know you were working, and also that you could do from online little things, just to be able to fill in those gaps, right? So I mean, it's something that is, especially with the internet these days, is plausible for you to be able to do certain things, a little bit of lying, a little bit of finessing, and the diligency there of understanding, oh yeah, you could do this process serving thing, and you could do this and you could do that, and you put all those things together and do those things in the middle of the night, and you've got the kind of stamina that you can kind of keep going all day every day, except for like the 4 hours you can sleep. You can do it. It's not
Yeah,
impossible. So for the
but
people who
it's
want to do it, because there are people who want to do it, and there are people who honestly, they get less sleep, they get less rest, and they feel less good because between them working their job, trying to pay bills in a house, and basically spending all their time at their parents' side at this nursing home, they're never sleeping. So I'm just saying, for people who want to do it, it's something you can do. But if you're doing it alone, literally alone, it is a lot. It is a
yeah,
lot, and it will take a lot of life out of you, for
and
real.
and that and that's the thing that I worry about when I look at this, because a lot of us as Black people, we don't have plans for that. So we think we will be able to continue working forever, and let's say at 60, we stop, and let's say you get to that age. Now you could have another 10 to 15 years in you, right? But somebody else has to be there for you.
Mhm. Yep.
Now,
Yep.
granted, right? You can't guarantee that that last 10 to 15 years is going to be amazing, but based on your overall health before then, and I guess, your genetic susceptibility to certain things, like if you were the person who worked out and kept yourself in shape, on average, when 60 hits, you don't automatically hit a wall.
Mhm.
I see a lot of people who are able to continue moving around. My dad's in his 60s now, actually, and he's still moving around, still doing things. He has less muscle mass than he had when I was younger, right? But he's still out and about getting things done. He's still doing his accounting business when tax time rolls around. And while he is technically retired, right, he's still keeping active. He's going out and cutting the grass himself. He's doing the things that keep him active, such that he doesn't end up in a home right away. And
Mhm.
that's something that we need to factor in for people, especially of color, because if we don't stay active, like you say, we go into a home, we're dead the next year.
Right. Yeah.
And very often it's not just we're dead the next year because we fell over with diabetes. No, it was because somebody didn't rotate us on the bed, so we had a bed sore,
Yep.
and that bed sore became gangrenous, and it actually became a gangrenous thing that infected the bone. This actually happened to my grandmother in St. Kitts, where she went to a home. She was on this, she broke her hip. It never properly healed. She had a bed sore that became, infected, and the
Mhm.
infection seeped into her bone where the bone hadn't healed yet, and it kept cropping back up, and she'd have intermittent fevers, and nobody knew what was going on.
Wow.
That is awful.
But
Wow.
this is the reality of these nursing homes. They say, "Oh, you have a fever. Let's give you some Tylenol."
Yep. That, my grandmother was in a hospital with me pushing for 4 months before these people figured out that she doesn't have Alzheimer's. Her pancreas isn't working.
Yes, and the problem is people generally don't care about people's end of life care, because they're looking at this person. This is an old person. They're going to die anyway. Let's focus our care on the young guy who just came in with a gunshot wound.
Hmm. Yeah. And what they also do, here's the thing, right? So really nondescript, okay, so there's things that doctors call basically diagnoses of exclusion. That is to say, they don't have a medical condition that they can prove through medical tests you have. So based on your symptoms, they slap a label on you. That's called a diagnosis of exclusion. Fibromyalgia is one of those things. You can't medically prove someone has fibromyalgia or not in a lot of ways. So what do they do? Well, oh, you have pain? It's muscular, it seems like. All right, you got fibro. Oh, you're old, over this age, and you seem
Arthritis.
really confused, and you
Yeah,
don't know who
dementia.
you are, and yeah, you got dementia. Right. Not even Alzheimer's, dementia. Dementia doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. So you could have one of dozens of medical conditions going on right now, but because they see an old face and an old chart, right, they're just going to slap you with this diagnosis of exclusion and walk away from it. And you might be dying from something that's totally treatable, and they treat you, and you could go back to being who you were.
Yeah, and something as simple as hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia, where the blood sugar is really low. They go into a diabetic coma.
Yep. That's what was happening with my grandmother, right? Because her pancreas isn't working. So because it wasn't working, and it was I can't remember. It wasn't that it was infected. There's something, but because her pancreas wasn't working, her blood sugar wasn't being regulated at all, right? Because she didn't really have the insulin was either not being produced or being overproduced or whatever. So that was really why she was so incoherent. That's why she didn't know who the hell she was or what was going on, or she would think that what was happening on the TV was happening right now. The woman tried to jump off of her balcony of her 8th floor apartment because she thought that the fire she saw on the news was happening. Like they were showing her what was happening outside of her house. Like and they said, well, it's dementia. It was not dementia. It was not. They treated her pancreas. Guess what? Woman went home a few months after that, perfectly sane, perfectly sharp, fit as a fiddle. Well, not fit as a fiddle, but perfectly sharp. But see, this is what happens, and the problem is, even when you're a young person, in the Western medical care system, you have to fight and advocate for yourself, or you will fall through the cracks.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So imagine if
Especially
they
as
don't
black
care.
people, because we saw this happen with COVID.
Especially, yep. Yep,
Yes.
especially as black people, especially as a black woman. So now, if you think about the fact that you are a black person and you're young and they do not care about you, imagine how much they don't care about you when you hit 65 and older.
And
Like,
that's where I
Yeah.
say that I think every family should, like, let's get to some solutions on this. I think every family should have the talk while we're young and able to still move. We should have that talk and say, hey, if I get old or if I fall over into that ditch somewhere, this is what I'd like you guys to do, because I understand my end of life here shouldn't, like, this is me and my logic behind the bear fight again. I shouldn't have to be the thing that burdens you. So when you're supposed to be enjoying your wife and kids, instead you're taking care of my old ass, and I'm sitting there drooling all over you.
Mhm.
But that being said, not everybody wants to fight a bear. I get that. I get that. Some people want to go peacefully in their sleep.
Yeah, yep. Hmm.
Yeah,
Well, you
but
know
that
what?
is
It's Sorry, I was going
It,
to say, it's funny if you look at the statistics. Men actually die faster when you put them into nursing homes. When they get to the place basically where they can't take care of themselves, they die real quick.
yeah,
And I think that has a lot to do with it. It's that psychological, I don't want to be a burden thing that men have. They don't want to cling to life. They don't see it as, well, but I'll still be here for the grandkids and be here for moral advice and support. Men feel like if they're, not only are they not going to be useful, but they're going to be a burden, they would rather not be there, I think.
if I'm 70 years old and I ain't taught you everything I'm supposed to teach you as a father, I think I failed.
okay. But just like when it comes down to marriage, there's just certain things you need to talk about while everything is cool. Same thing for your family. You need to put these things in place, these living wills and insurance and all this kind of stuff. It's important, and that way you can update it as every 10 years. May not be every
Mhm,
5 years, but at least every decade, from your
Um,
mhm.
30s to your 40s to your 50s, whatever you need to do, and just make the changes.
You spend about $3,000, get yourself a trip up to Alaska or somewhere in the Kodiak. Go ahead, prepare for your grizzly fight. $3,000.
No.
They don't even need to bury you after that.
I'm not letting you
Okay.
do this damn bear fight, okay? It's not happening. Mark my words, y'all. Shadra's not dying from a bear fight because of Ruby. I refuse to allow this to happen. Refuse. I won't co-sign. But no, it's listen, it's a fair point. My grandmother, when I was a kid, my grandmother was paying. I remember she told me, because her money's tight right now. I'm like, why? And she said she's paying for her plot. Plot for what? The cemetery. For what? For when I die. For what? I was so mad. I was actually really, I was incensed. I was hurt. I was insulted for her. She didn't think her kids cared enough that they would want to pay for a funeral plot. What, she thought they were just going to dump her in the ocean or whatever. Like, I was really upset by this, right? As a kid, right? I'm very defensive of not the evil incarnate grandma, the one that I love. And so I was really upset by this. But this was my grandmother, just another example of my grandmother taking care of her kids. First of all, this is not, not trying to make a personal jab at my grandmother's kids. However, my grandmother did not think they would be in a financial position, nor in, I guess we'll say, a mature enough position for them to arrange any damn thing when she got too old for her to do it herself. That they would not be in the position to be thinking rationally or logically about, oh, let's set up this, let's make sure that some of her money is going towards this, so on and so forth. So she decided to do it herself. And this was her taking care of her kids, but I didn't really see it that way when I was young. I saw this as an insult, which goes to show you that we don't have these discussions within our families, and definitely not with our kids enough. When my mom told me she had life insurance on me, I was a teenager. She told me she had life insurance on me. I bawled my eyes out. I was furious. This is you banking on profiting from my death, like, you bitch. I was so upset, right? And she was like, I get no $200,000 policy on you, right? I got enough money to be able to pay for your burial and not to have to worry about those things, clean up your little estate or whatever you're going to have. And I was like, but I didn't see it that way, right? Because, it wasn't a discussion we had about being responsible in this way and taking care of the concept of end of life and, just in case things go wrong and whatever. So I saw it as like my mom was hoping I was going to die any moment. I had lots of reasons to think that at the time, but, still, these are, I did, but, these are the conversations we need to have with our kids even. You can't necessarily change the older generation. They're very stuck once you get to past a certain age. But, why aren't we having these discussions with the youth who are coming up right now, who need to understand these things and kind of, it's always got to be in their head when they think, I'm ready to be an adult now. Are you ready to pay for your life insurance monthly? And are you ready to pay for your health insurance monthly? And are you ready to do this? And are you ready to do that? And are you accounting for this? Are you accounting for that? Right? If we're not having these discussions with them, much like Bill Cosby did, right, with Eddie, he thought that, oh, I have a job, I'm gonna go get my own apartment when I get. Oh, really? Okay, well, then he just started taking the money. Remember? Oh, you gotta pay for this. Oh, you gotta pay for this. Oh, you gotta pay for this, right? And he did it with cute stuff. But we need to
Right.
be doing that for real with some serious things because, how the hell else are we expecting our kids to know and understand this stuff?
This is so true. This is things that we need to talk about. Very
Mm-hmm.
important, especially when you don't have much. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
need to talk about it because it could be something as simple as um, a blood transfusion. Fusion. I'll give you an example. This guy was saying his mom had an issue with her heart, and in the family there was a couple of Jehovah Witnesses that were siblings, and everyone else was a Christian or demon or whatever they call themselves. And the Jehovah Witnesses stood up. It was two older sisters. They're like, no, no, Mama can't have blood.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, two, three, four, other four like, what you talking about? No, Mama can't have blood, and that was a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
She needed some blood, and they wanted to fight, and they got into it. Siblings, they got into it about that. And but in the end, the four won. The two Jehovah's Witnesses, they didn't win the fight. There was another divide, like I said, because of the fight. But these are some things that would be nice to talk about. If you have a religious thing and you don't want these things or blood or whatever it is, put that in your living will.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Mhm. Yep.
And
Yep.
one of the things my father used to say when I was growing up, because I inherited some a-hole from him, right? He used to say growing up, y'all better not be having no $10,000 funeral for me. Feed me,
Mhm.
chop me up and feed me to the dogs. I'm like, wait, what? And my mother's like, don't talk like that, not in front of the kids. And now I understand where my father was coming from. Why? You chop them up and you feed them to the dogs, right? That's a $10,000 funeral you don't have to pay for. It's a burden on
Exactly.
it's a burden on his
Y'all, you're
family.
right.
It's a burden on his family that doesn't have to be there. And granted,
See.
I'm pretty sure he's got the life insurance and he's got the stuff set up, the investment set up to be able to pay for that. But he doesn't want to have $20,000 come out for some extravagant funeral. He was getting that point across to us. It's like, look, you don't need to have an extravagant funeral to remember me. Hopefully, I did a good enough job teaching you so that you can remember that your dad taught you how to think.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, okay? Um, no, seriously, because when my stepmother committed suicide, um, we really didn't. She didn't have life insurance or anything set up. And her and my parent weren't even together at the time. She was single. But we got to do something. This is my sister's mother, right? So my sister was 12 at the time, and so we pulled together what money we could. My mom's church actually was really nice in doing a little thing to try to raise a few $1,000s at least. But we really didn't have a lot of money. That was issue A. Issue B, Catholic Church wouldn't bury her because suicide. And the sad thing about that is funerals are for the living; they're not for the dead. People forget that, especially when people are talking about their own funerals. Funerals are for the living; they're not for you. Okay, you're already gone. So when you deprive a family from saying goodbye in a Catholic mass, and they are Catholic, you're not depriving the dead person. They're already dead, and they're dealing with God or the devil or whoever the hell, right? You're depriving the family of being able to say goodbye, according to their rights. But anyway, so we had to literally find a place that everything was adjustable, and then take the lowest possible package. That lowest possible package included the most basic makeup you could get. Now, maybe if you're black, this is not going to matter as much. Like if you're dark. But I could tell you, on a white woman, it mattered, because years of flashbacks, years of therapy, probably still some therapy I need to take now, revolved around the three words: she was blue. Does it? That was what processed in my head when I got to that coffin to make my peace, and I had convinced my sister she wants to say goodbye, and so she decided last second to run up with me. This is the last goodbye, and we walk. The woman's blue. Okay, that's what happens when you cheap out on the makeup, right? And you don't understand how expensive funerals are until you have to plan one, and you don't understand the difference some things can make in a funeral until you don't get them. So with that being said, I understand what you're saying, but remember, funerals are for the living, and they are a really important part of Western culture closure. You need these things to be able to say goodbye, to be able to give that last glance, to be able to just do all that crap, for me to sing that stupid song that my grandmother loves. Did I sing it for my grandmother who loves the song? No. Did I even sing it for me? No. Right? I sang it for my mother because my mother wanted me to sing it. When I sang for Wilhelmina's mom dying, who literally just dropped dead randomly of a heart attack, healthy woman, perfectly fine, dropped dead of a heart attack 3 days before Christmas. Yay. And did I sing a song for Wilhelmina's mom because Shanita loves that song? I know I sang it for Wilhelmina. right? So funerals are for the living. We have to remember that these rights are important. And yeah, they're going to charge us the what's due and totally screw us over this. And I understand that. But cheaping out on it, especially if you don't have to, I don't think you should. I just don't, because I've seen the difference. I have seen the difference, and it makes a difference.
Well, see, with my father, right? He's gonna be the guy who's like, okay, so you're gonna stand in front of the casket, talk to me when I can't hear you. You need to talk to me now.
People die suddenly, okay? I didn't know the woman was gonna die. Lord Jesus. Actually, no, you know what? That was actually a really tragic thing. It was just like a series of unfortunate events that had happened. I hadn't spoken to that woman in a very long time. And anytime I had even seen her, I was mad. I was just mad at her because she took my sister, ran away with her. You know, it was a really bad situation with this woman for a really long time. But then me and my parent had a falling out. I was still wanting to see my sister. I was thinking, oh, I'll maybe go through my stepmother, but you know, I'm not talking to this bitch. But then she actually called for car insurance, I think, and happened to speak to my mother, and then said, hey, this is your name. Okay, this is my name, and my daughter is Christine, and you know, do you have a daughter Ruby? Okay, I think that you know our daughters are sisters, and so you know they ended up having this whole conversation. My mom told me about it, and I said, you know what? Maybe I'll reach out to her. You know, maybe I'll reach out to her. Maybe we can kind of bury the hatchet on this, and you know, we can just resolve these issues, right? Because these are issues I'd held deeply. They cut really deep for you know a decade, literally a whole decade at that point. I was 12 years old when she took my sister and ran away. My sister was 12, so 10 years later when she killed herself, and not even 2 whole weeks later, this woman killed herself. So you know, I didn't have a chance to speak to her in person and say all the things I wanted to say and resolve all that stuff. You don't always get a chance to do that. You don't always know the things that you need to say or that you've left unresolved, honestly, sometimes until after someone dies. And then you go, shit, I never got to say this, but it's too late.
But like I mentioned before, I inherited my a-hole from my father. So,
I
you know.
You did.
He's the guy who's like, why are you gonna buy me flowers when I can't smell them?
Because they're not for him. You don't buy flowers for the dead person. This is what I said. Funerals are not for the dead. They're for the living. You don't buy flowers for the dead person. You buy flowers for the family. You're buying flowers when 700 people send flowers, you're telling that family that this person that they are mourning, that they can't even see the light of day about now because they're gone, this person was so loved. That's what you're telling. You're not telling the dead person they're dead. They can't, none of this is affecting them at all, right? Funerals are for the living. They're not for the dead.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll accept that. And with that being said, you spend all the money you want then. And
Thank you.
I'm not gonna contribute none of it. How about that?
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, like
Yeah, I can compromise. You should do if you want a $50,000 funeral because it's for you, the living. You should do that. You should do just that. Yep. Second
listen,
mortgage on a home. Yeah.
I didn't say have me no $50,000. First of all, okay, let's not be extra with bastardizing what Ruby said. I'm
Okay,
just
40.
saying, try to be no $3,000 funeral. You get what you pay for.
3,000.
Right?
That's too much. About
What?
1,100.
How you gonna
Yeah.
get under
Yeah.
1,100? Listen,
Give me that
y'all need
wooden
to
box
stop.
over there. That basic wooden box.
That's
Y'all
right.
need to stop. Y'all need to stop. Okay? Y'all
You
are
ain't got to
horrible.
close it if you don't
Horrible.
want to.
Horrible. You know what? Listen, I'll tell you one thing though. There is a big difference between me and y'all, and not just because you guys are cold like ice. That's not the only difference. There's a big difference in the fact that I live in Canada, right? So, for example, things like healthcare are 100% free, right? You know,
Ooh.
there are some extras you got to pay for without an OHIP card, but I mean, in general, you know, things that I don't have to pay for health insurance, right? No one in my family does. If someone suddenly gets cancer or whatever the hell and now needs medical treatment, boom, they get medical treatment. No one's going bankrupt over that, right? So there are a lot of expenses you take away right there, you know, just by the fact that we have all this free health coverage, right? And then there's a lot of honestly free money that I'm going to say our government sends us that y'all never see. Right? You might get like I think you guys get like a child tax, for example, like once a year, but we get a baby bonus every month until that kid turns like 21 or something. Every month we get
Say what?
yeah, yeah, right. We get a check per kid. This has nothing to do with, oh well, if you are on welfare or not. Everyone gets a check monthly called baby bonus, because you have a kid who's under the age of 21. So there's a bunch of different things, I think, that are set up in Canada, so that way when I say these things, well, it's a lot more likely, I'm gonna honestly guess it's a lot more likely that you have life insurance here in Canada, because there's a bunch of other things you don't have to pay for monthly, like medical insurance, right? So you can afford a little bit, just even basic coverage life insurance. You can afford a little bit of basic coverage for a funeral. You can afford a little bit of basic whatever, even if you don't make a lot of money, even if your pension is crap, even if you're on old age security and whatever, right? There's certain things you can afford here because there's other things you don't have to pay for. So, I'm probably coming from a slightly different perspective in that regard, luckily for us over here.
And it does make a difference. But once again, it comes down to economics. And these if the earlier you have these conversations, the longer you have to plan for these things. Ideally,
right?
You get married to somebody, that person you're marrying, y'all need to have that talk. Say, yo, okay, so I know we're supposed to be a happy time, but before we get into this, I'm gonna fight a bear, right?
Man, you and this bear, okay? I think we should ban Shadra from being able to say any form of bear for the rest of this stream. I refuse to accept this. Like, no.
He's really excited about the bear, so
he really is, right? Like, he really wants to. I honestly think there's a large part of Shadra that hopes he gets diagnosed with something terminal so he can go out and fight the bear. Like, I really think he actually wants that to be his life story. Like, he doesn't want to just, die quietly in his sleep one night peacefully, everything's cool. No, he wants to, like, be told, you're gonna die in a year, and then have the chance to go out and fight the bear. Like, that's what he wants. He wants that chance to prove that he can beat the bear or die trying.
That's funny.
I love that. But no, okay, I will say, in all fairness, going back to the topic at hand, with this person, because again, like I said, I am trying to be fair and I'm not trying to be judgmental, right? I caught a vibe based on the way that she told her story, again, that sounded selfish. And I feel like, and here's one of the things, I feel like I should address it as though she's not selfish. If you're not selfish, here is what I suggest you do, because this is what we did. Like, my family, I mean, listen, we're no closer together. We all hate each other, so on and so forth. But people started putting their foot down, and they started literally, like, I'm going to dig up in your pocket just as much as you're going to dig up in mine. And I'm going to threaten you just as much as you're going to threaten me. But ultimately, something's going to get done. So when it came down to it, like, for example, I knew that I wouldn't be able to physically commit the kind of time I would like to being able to regularly help my grandmother in that way. I'm not consistent. And so, I suggested at the time, okay, well, why don't we all pitch in for a nurse? We all pitch in a little bit, right? Just a little bit. We will be able to afford even a couple hours, a few hours a week. That might make a very big difference for a couple people who are going to suddenly get an hour off, or suddenly can work that extra hour at work or whatever. And, telling people, holding people accountable for their own actions. As far as who's the executor of the will, first of all, who's the executor of the living will, or who do those rights fall onto, and then tallying up people's debts within the family. Like, I'm sorry, I know it sounds like a jerky thing to say, but listen, man, if you owe this person, if you owe your mama back money and whatever, well, you know what? You owe some time and energy and effort right now. You want those debts to be forgiven? I might be able to arrange that, but you got to put in some work right now. You gotta do your time as well. And hey, listen, I promise if you do take in mama this year, right? I promise that I'm gonna put in this many hours to help you out. And hey, listen, we can all pitch in this amount of money to get a little bit of extra nursing help on the weekends so you still have time with the kids or whatever the case is, right? The point is, though, right, is sometimes you've got to force help. And you got to force help by reaching out not just to the immediate family, but to the extended family. And then honestly, what evil incarnate auntie did was shame people. And shame works really well with Black folk. I'm going to tell you, it really does. Um, right? And you don't need to shame directly, right? Because shaming directly, like, you don't give a shit what evil auntie says, right? She told everybody. So you got everybody coming at you, right? So now you got a whole bunch of people holding you accountable and holding that shame in your face. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to really run from that shame? Because you're never going to be able to go out for happy hour again. You know how many people are going to sit there and criticize you? You could have paid that $50 towards your mama's life, right? Like, so you can't do that now. So you might as well just pay that $50. This is what you got to do sometimes. Sometimes you got to play dirty tactics. If you're the good one and they play dirty, sometimes you got to play dirty too. So you don't have to necessarily give up the good fight. You can push. You're allowed to push, just like they pushed you and they manipulated you because they knew that if they played chicken with you, you'd lose. Now it's time for you to push back. Do the same thing to them that they did to you, because ultimately, even though they're not doing it for the right reasons, if your mom deserves this kind of sacrifice from her children and her nieces and nephews and cousins and whatever, then make it happen.
You see, you're dropping tactics right now. Tactics. Like, yeah, they didn't want to help. It's all right. It's all right. Next time they go for happy hour, their friends looking at them all kinds of funny. Hey! I heard you didn't have $15 to give to your mom's time in the home or your mom's nurse.
Yep.
Look at this guy here. But
yep.
The problem with that is you have some people that shame will not work on.
True. But if this, in this case, like, let's say you have a mom that actually cares about you, that means she actually showed you love and empathy and sympathy your whole life. And then you have a sister. I know this just because this is my family, right? You have a sister that always takes that responsibility and that accountability so you don't have to, right? You learn how to game that your whole life so that way you don't have to, right? But deep down inside, you want your mom taken care of. You want your mom loved. You want whatever. You just know your sister will do it so you don't have to be the responsible one, right? So it's about basically, it's like my sister, right? My sister is a very selfish little girl, but when it came down to, I can't do it. I literally can't do it. I injured my back. I was no longer able to do it. I can't fill in for you. I can't step up for you. I can't just sit there and take all the responsibility. So you have to take none. Guess what she started doing? Taking responsibility. She wanted grandma taken care of. She just wanted everyone else to do it. But if there's not an everyone else, what's she going to do? Abandon this woman who loved her, nurtured her, was the only person who understood her when her mom died, blah, blah, blah. Nope. She wasn't going to do it. And a little bit of shame here and there worked really well to keep her in line. I'm just being real.
Yeah, well, it doesn't work for everyone in every situation, but that worked for you. That's good. And I don't know the outcome of the letter. I have no idea. But again, I gave them some options. And then what we talked about tonight, for anyone in the future, this is something to think about. Start planning. It's really never too early to plan. You can have some burial insurance for just yourself. Your living will, what you want, what you don't want. Um, think about it. It'll help your family. It'll help you. That's just less stress.
Right. And I mean, this is slightly, it's a related topic, but slightly a tangent over here. But I just want to point out the fact that a couple of things that we don't really think about. The first thing is that a lot of people right now are on this whole, I'm gonna do me and I'm gonna be great. I'm gonna shine on my own. Whether it's I don't need men, I don't need women, blah blah blah. I'm gonna be single forever. That kind of mentality.
Rugged individualism.
Right, exactly, right? This dysfunctional ass rugged individualism, very short-sighted because you're only thinking about you being now young, healthy, and functional, right? That's all you're thinking about. Um, what people don't realize though, right, when it comes to these anything, whether it comes to fighting a disease like cancer or whatever, it comes to old age and staying healthier for longer, when it comes to when you are actually old, a large percentage of people who are, between 65 and 90, between 85 and 90, a large percentage of those people still live in a couple, interesting, right? Because they will live with their spouse, their significant other, right? So they actually end up taking care of each other. So yes, their health is, both of them are dwindling, but where one, they kind of still will, one will do one thing, one will do the other, so they still kind of can co-manage, right? And they're co-mingling their little old age security, and all of those things. So it's what you don't realize actually is that when you start cutting yourself off, you're not making connections to have a spouse, you're not making connections to have friends, you're not making connections with your family, you don't care about nobody and no one's your problem, right? That is another type of planning, right? And you're not planning ahead for when you can't be all rugged individual and everything's perfect for you. You're not planning ahead for when you actually need people. Because actually people, interestingly enough, because people don't think this, right? They think, well, I made enough money, so I'll be fine. I'll go to the nursing home and I'll be fine. Actually, no, you're more likely to die very quickly. Um, you're more likely to die quickly versus people who are from lower socioeconomic classes if you get sent to a nursing home. So, I mean, that is to say, again, right, we need to realize we do need people. We are social animals, and being good to people, finding good people to, tie your life to. Like I said, your chosen family and your chosen friends, and, you know, um, finding people to kind of have a reciprocal relationship of help and support and love and whatever. Those things are actually valuable tools that you will need later on in life and at various stages in your life. So, like, don't just dismiss that because you're doing all the financial planning. This is actually another type of planning that you actually do need and does benefit you.
That is correct. Chandra, did you want to say anything, your last final words?
Yeah, we have to look at things. Even though we don't have a lot of money, we don't have a lot of resources, we do have other resources. We do have people, and we do have planning. And if you combine people and planning, you can get a lot done.
Mm-hmm.
So very often, I'd say that, if you're not a total a-hole, and, you don't have a bear plan, so you need to make sure that you have people that will be in your life at the end of your life who are at least willing to work with you or help you achieve a plan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you can't do
Absolutely.
that, you better have that money stacked up and be prepared to be sitting in your own stuff for a little while in a nursing home because they may not take that good care of you.
Right.
This is this is true.
Right.
And I will end the show on that. Um, I won't be going to sleep anytime soon. Got fireworks going on. It's still celebrations.
Nice.
But I
Yeah.
will ask and thank I will thank you all for coming to the show. And I really appreciate that. Thank you for those that contributed to the channel. Thank you so much. Also, we will be having a show tomorrow. I do plan to be on time. Ha ha ha. It'll be 6:30 p.m. Central. That's 7:30 Eastern for you guys.
Mhm.
And we'll be having an article reaction. Um, I'm a little hyped up about it. Like I said, I'm enjoying it. We're getting back in the swing of that. So do come through. I think you'll have a good time.
Woohoo.
And on that note, until tomorrow, peace, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.